to a party where somebody got beheaded. I've been to some weird parties, and I've certainly been in social settings where stuff amps up over the course of the day or the course of the night, and eventually you're like, no, dang, I think we might be crossing some lines here. I don't know if this is a good idea. And I don't just mean in salacious or violent ways or anything like that. I mean, I'm even talking about just like, kid parties, birthday parties, slumber parties where you just amp up the ribbing or fighting or wrestling around or whatever to the point that's like, that's just too rough. That's too much. That's too mean. We're being too harsh. You know how it can happen where things spiral a little bit socially to a place that you probably wouldn't have got on your own. Well, I guess that's kind of what happened at the party that we're learning about in Matthew 14. It's just that here it spiraled until some underage girl did some kind of dance that probably wasn't very appropriate, and then that directly resulted in a man getting beheaded. Here's exactly how that played out. Matthew chapter 14. You got this guy Herod, who's a tetrarch or a local ruler under the authority of Rome, and he's a really insecure leader. He very much fits the biblical archetype of the clown king. And he is concerned about Jesus. He's concerned about John the Baptist. John the Baptist freaked him out in the first place because he said that Herod's weird incestuous wedding was wrong. And then, well, as we'll find out, even after John the Baptist was dead, this Herod guy was still paranoid about Jesus because he thought maybe Jesus was John the Baptist reincarnated. So the story goes that Herod the Tetrarch heard the reports about Jesus, and he said to his attendants, "This is John the Baptist. He's risen from the dead. That's why miraculous powers are at work in him." Now, Herod had arrested John. So now we're into a flashback here as we get into verse 3. It says, "Now Herod had arrested John and bound him and put him in prison because of Herodias, his brother Philip's wife. For John had been saying to him, 'It's not lawful for you to have her.' Herod wanted to kill John, but he was afraid of the people because they considered him a prophet." So the quick version of who this Herodias lady is that she was the wife of Herod the Tetrarch's brother. So Herod home-wrecked, broke them up, and took Herodias to be his wife. But in the process, Herod Antipas, the guy we're talking about here in this passage, also had to divorce his existing wife. We'll get into all of the confusingness and ugliness of this. But Herodias has got a daughter confirmed in extra biblical sources as being named Salome, and she's going to come up in this story. So I see Herod had him arrested, and it's not lawful for you to have her. So Herod wanted to kill John, but he was afraid of the people because they considered him, that is John, a prophet. Now here's where the out-of-control party starts to come into play. On Herod's birthday, the daughter of Herodias danced for them and pleased Herod so much that he promised with an oath to give her whatever she asked. Prompted by her mother, she said, "Give me here on a platter the head of John the Baptist." The king was distressed, but because of his oaths and his dinner guests, he ordered that her request be granted and had John beheaded in the prison. His head was brought in on a platter and given to the girl, who carried it to her mother. John's disciples came and took his body and buried it, and then they went and told Jesus. So we got 5 characters here that are all applying a pressure one way or another. We have the clown king, who's very insecure. He doesn't have the title of real king, and he really wants it. And I'll tell you who wants it even more than him is his wife, Herodias. She wants to be a queen. We know from extra-biblical sources that later on in life, she badgered her husband incessantly to get him to go to the new emperor Caligula and appeal to him to name him king and her queen and give them all the privileges that came with that. Now, Herodias was terribly misguided in her reading of the situation because the Emperor Caligula, who was nuts and crazy and maniacal himself, got word from another relative, Herod Agrippa, that this Herod Antipas fellow and his wife Herodias, they are trouble, they're up to something, and Caligula was persuaded by what he heard from Agrippa and ultimately rejected Antipas and Herodias' appeal to him to be named king and queen, and instead they got the exact opposite. They got banished to France or probably Spain, where they died at some undetermined time in total obscurity. So character number 1 in the story is Herod Antipas, the son of Herod the Great. Character number 2 in the story is Herodias, who, as we've discussed, is the former sister-in-law and current wife of Herod Antipas, and also like his niece somehow. It's really weird the way it all fits together. And she is a hardcore Lady Macbeth type. She's got an axe to grind. She's got her hooks into Herod Antipas, and she really doesn't like what John said about their marriage. John is the guy to her who sees through her, sees the manipulation, and as long as John is alive, Herodias's gig is being called out and exposed to everyone simply by merit of him continuing to draw breath. So character number 1, Herod Antipas. Character number 2, Herodias, his wife. Character number 3, Salome, her daughter. She is not mentioned by name in the Bible, but Flavius Josephus, the historian who pays off in so many ways when you're studying the first century and the New Testament, he weighs in on this saying, quote, Herodias was married to Herod, the son of Herod the Great, who was born to Miriam, the daughter of Simon the high priest, who had a daughter, Salome, after whose birth Herodias took upon her to confound the laws of our country and divorced herself from her husband when he was alive and was married to Herod Antipas, her husband's brother by her father's side. He was the Tetrarch of Galilee. But her daughter, Salome, was later married to Philip, the son of Herod, the Tetrarch of Trachonitis, and as he died childless, Aristobulus, the son of Herod, the brother of Agrippa, married her. They had 3 sons, Herod, Agrippa, and Aristobulus. Admittedly, I just read you way more than I had set out to from that quote from Josephus. On the one hand, you get the idea. On the other hand, you're reminded that the whole Herod family tree is very complicated, but hopefully that's enough for us to move forward. So we got Herod Antipas. We got his wife Herodias. We have her daughter Salome. We've got the dangerously truth-telling, imprisoned John the Baptist, who has no political clout, no money, no media, no empire. He's just a guy with nothing to lose in a prison who says things he thinks are true, and other people seem to be persuaded that there's truth in what he says as well. And then the 5th character is the crowd, the party guests, the sycophants, who are all there to fawn over how great this Herod Antipas fellow is and how totally normal and healthy this relationship with his new wife is. They are there to do the opposite of John the Baptist. That is to normalize what he's doing and to make him feel better about things. And these 5 characters have created a homeostatic relationship. We're at an impasse here because Herod would like to get rid of John the Baptist, but the people like John the Baptist, and they think what he's saying is true, and Herod knows that it'll only worsen his situation if he kills John the Baptist, so John the Baptist is being indefinitely detained because we can't think of a better way to move forward. So then what we get in this party that gets out of control is Herodias seizing the moment to break up this impasse, to break up this logjam. And now that we've properly set the stage, now that we properly understand the social tension, and now that we properly understand what everybody's motives are, we are better positioned tomorrow to understand the anatomy of how this party got so out of control and ended in a blood-drenched incident that really would change the fortunes of individuals and a royal family and the unfolding of a religion and even the entire political landscape of the ancient Near East in the 1st century. It's going to be a ton of fun. And as we prepare to part ways today, I can't help but think I've maybe been a little bit too liberal in handing out internet high fives of late at the end of these things, but I feel I owe you one here as well. So, hey, to everyone listening who's never been to a party where somebody ended up getting beheaded at the end, here is a high five for you. I'm Matt. This is a 10-Minute Bible Hour podcast. Let's pick it up where we left off. Mañana.